Always right. Always get
What does he do? What is it?
Oh, we record.
We are not just now.
Get a microphone, so you
We'll have to figure out why they're not. I'm not sure why they're not.
Talk real loud.
Yeah, I'll get it. So,
Me too.
When I call the May 13th City Council work session, and we have a quorum, so I'd like to stand and pledge allegiance to the flag.
To the flag, United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a brief prayer. Heavenly Father, bless our efforts and inspire us to work together harmoniously, always mindful of the trust placed in us by those we represent. We ask for your protection over our city and for our blessings upon all its residents. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, well, first thing on the agenda, I'd like to just tell you where we were doing as far as the current business going on. We moved the city administration offices back across the street into the old house. We still got a little snafus going on, waiting for the internet and some of the computer hardware to get hooked up. The police department will be taking over this building. We're going to put a dividing wall. Will be down there, in that half of the building. This will stay the way it is for the city court, and then we'll still hold council meetings here. And that's what's going on. The police department bought a new car, and the money came from the selling of the two Dodge Challengers they had, the Mustang. They sold one of the Dodge Chargers and stuff like that. So the money that came from those sales went to buy the new car. So I started processing for the road department storage facility across the street. We're going to put a barn set up in there with two garage doors in there. So we're going to come and change the parking lot a little bit. It'll be on the parking lot. So we're going to have some little minor work to be done on the parking lot. And then once that's done, then the storage barn will come in, and that'll take like 2 weeks to get delivered and put up. And that'll get the road department and keep their equipment in there. I also rented a storage unit down here for the time being, because we had to make a complete break from the previous landlord who held most of the equipment and the police department and stuff. So that's where we're at. And what I would like to do, we have Richard Atkinson here. I hired him as our city planner. So he's, going to go through our building codes and stuff like that. And
nice to meet you all. Happy to be here. Glad to have met Bill, and looking forward to helping you guys get back on track with all the codes and all your current and long-range planning needs. Happy to be here and appreciate it.
And that's about it for the old business. The new business, we've got Stiegel from T-Line would like to address us. The floor is yours.
Happy to be here, and thank you. Now, Mayor, council members, thank you for your time and for taking the opportunity to meet with me tonight. I'm here for a simple request, okay? And prior to getting into that request, I just want to turn back a little bit here, go through a quick chronology of events, because I don't think some of you were council members at the time, definitely not the mayor. We entered into Pendergrass in 2021, and at the time we came in, at the time it was Mr. Tolbert, Melvin Tolbert. The request of the city was very straightforward. Could we help the city to meet the housing demand, and could we raise the housing stock? Okay, those were the two simple requests that the city had. And understanding what we do, we are master developers. So what that means is we acquire land, we entitle it, it's our vision, okay? And then what we do is we develop the property. We put the infrastructure, horizontal, water, sewer, paving, drainage, and then we try and attract the best builder that we can to build the product to meet that request of raising the housing stock and meet the growing demand. 3 developments we have been directly responsible for is Providence Estates, okay, the Preserve, and Town Square across the street. And when I came here in 2001, the developments that were ongoing and under construction were Pendergrass Glen. They were Seasons that was finishing up or had just been built, and Walnut Grove. And I think we met that requirement and the demand. And all the jobs have done extremely well, and the selling prices, I think, have raised the bar here in Pendergrass. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm just telling you what the numbers show, and I'd be more than happy to match them up against some of those previous communities. When we entered into Town Square, the mayor at the time had a vision, and he wanted to create a downtown area, if you will, a town center. And not being commercial developers, we said, you know, Mayor, we are very concerned about the amount of rooftops that it takes to build the commercial that you're asking for in the city. But nonetheless, we're good partners. We will give it a try, and we will not tie a date certain to when we have to build it. But if the rooftops come, the commercial will follow, because you have to support those, you know, that commercial business with the rooftops. At that time, we were told that the growth mode for the city was to grow, grow, grow. Okay. And if that has changed now with this council, that's okay. That is absolutely okay. But when we made, or when we entered into a resolution with the city for town center, we were under the impression, and I have matrices from previous mayors that show there were 4,000 to 7,000 new rooftops that were going to be developed in Pendergrass over time. Okay? I think the thought process, the desire has shifted within the city. And all we're asking now, here comes my request, is if the city isn't going to move forward with those development, let's call them needs or desires, or building the number of units, we would ask that we could relax the amount of square footage that we build in Town Square. And it's just very simple. The amount of residents right now in the city doesn't meet the demand for 44,000 square feet. We have actively marketed for 3.5 years our town center. And I cannot find, that we cannot find a commercial builder to build it for 44,000 square feet. That was the minimum requirement, in the hopes that if we got to 7,000 new additional units, we could increase it to, I think it was 80 or 100, don't quote me on that.
100,000.
Sorry, 100,000. Right. And that was simple by building it in 2-story formats. Okay? My request tonight is, we believe the desirability for town center are the 2 pads that sit out on Glen Ave. And we would like, and we could get those committed, and we think relatively quickly, in the form of probably, depending on the sizing of the buildings, the footprint, somewhere between 15 and 20,000 square feet. About half. Okay? And what we're asking the city to do is to work with us to relax those requirements, to allow us to build the 2 frontage lots. And what we would ask is, in the back, we'll give it a time certain, say 12 months. And if we can't meet the further requirements of the 44,000 after actively marketing it, that we be allowed to turn those into townhomes. And let me explain to you where I'm going with this. We eventually would like to exit the city. This isn't a lifelong project, okay? We have another property under contract. You may or may not know that, but it's the G assemblage. It's 500 units. It has, it's in the design process for 500 units. It has the potential of a grocery. But if that isn't the desire or wishes of this council, then we're happy to pull up our flag and move on down the road. So the trade-off here is very simple. For an additional, Bill, you and I spoke briefly, I think it was 20 to 22 townhomes. So to build 22 more townhomes consistent with what's in the town square, on the 4 pads surrounding the park, and building the 15 to 20,000 out on the street where everybody wants to be, we're out of your life. If this town wants to stay the size it is and ultimately not grow bigger, I respect that. But also respect the fact that the commitments we made at the time were to different council members, a mayor at the time, or 2 mayors actually, that were in a growth mode. That had said, and I'll show you matrices, there were 4,000 to 7,000 more rooftops. I know Mountain Creek fell apart. Miss Wood's property in the back fell apart. My 500 units that I'm proposing right, down the block here, no more, if that's the desire. But what I'm asking for is then, if that's going to be the desire, work with me and give me an exit strategy. Because I don't want to be here 20 years from now. And one of the things I'll share with you is what I had repeated to the previous leadership of the city was most of these town centers that are built, Richard? Yes. Richard, Duluth, Suwanee, okay, were private-public partnerships. The cities contributed money, tax abatements, huge incentives to get these town squares, and I don't want to exaggerate, but it took 20 years, maybe, to bring to fruition.
Duluth was a 15-year overnight success.
There you go. I don't want to be here in front of you 15 years from now, trying to find an exit strategy. So our simple request is, work with us. I have met with a number of different developers, and developers, I mean vertical construction, okay, I'm horizontal. I think you see the vision, the entry feature, whether you like it or not, I think the townhomes met. I've heard from some council members and people that exceeded the expectation. We've raised the bar. The average selling price over there was in the high 300s, which I think has, increased the housing values in the city. But at this point in time, after 3.5 years and putting $100 million into the ground, there comes a point in time where it's time to move on, or it gets stale. So that's my simple request, is that this council would make a consideration. We've been a good partner to the city. We've done everything we said we were going to do. I'm stuck on 44,000 square feet. A lot of traffic goes with that. I hear complaints about traffic all the time. I think if we condense it, put it out on Glen Abbey where it belongs, so they have the road frontage, I think that 20,000 square feet, 18, don't quote me on the exact number, somewhere right there, whatever those pads will support, and I want to tell you it's about 15 to 20,000, because we have different levels and depending on how you measure the square feet. I think we could support some nice businesses. And let me be very clear. We want quality. Okay? We want quality. And that's what we brought here. Okay? That's what we want, and that's what I demand. We're not going to do it with the fly-by-night commercial guy who wants to buy pads out there and, go out there spec build and then have them sitting vacant, dilapidated, not being maintained, So that is what we're asking for, with this council. And with that, I hope that you'll consider our request. It's not a threat, it's just a simple request. And I'll answer any questions that you may have, concerns from whoever.
I have questions.
Hmm?
So, two come to mind with me is,
Sure.
if the city were to take on that consideration and give you the 12 months, how confident are you, being that we've had the space available, right, for 3 years, right, that you would be able to develop the, what was the number? 18?
1,000 square feet, you're saying?
So 15 to 20K.
Okay, so let me be very clear. And let me quantify the numbers. To build 20,000 square feet of commercial between the land and the build out, you're probably looking, if I had to guess, an investment of about $5 million that somebody is going to put into the vertical construction costs. Okay? I had already put $25 million into the land, the development, and all of the things you see sitting over there now. Okay? I'm working with a couple builders that have told me, it's only as good as what they say, that they are willing to take the risk on 20,000 square feet, but no way 44 is suicide. Okay? 1,800 units do not support 40,000 square feet, especially when a restaurant has just recently opened within the city. Okay? It just doesn't work. So what I was saying is, if I can get this commitment, I will commit to the 20,000. I will restrict those lots for commercial only. Hear me out. Commercial only. We'll never be back in front of you to ask you to change those. I would come back on the back 4 pads. I'm asking for another 12 months of an attempt to get, if I can get somebody to build the 20,000, and it takes off, they're going to want more. But if they don't, and they say, Rob, we're tapping out here, that's all the city's going to support, I need to be able to do something with those pads. And my point is, we have a proven entity in the form of townhomes. Aesthetically, they look very nice. They'll fit in with the motif. They'll surround the park, which hopefully someday becomes a high traffic area and gets a lot of use. And it's a lot less traffic than driving in to a commercial center. Okay? So that is what I'm after.
So you're talking 5 more, no, I'm talking 40 units?
No, ma'am. I want to tell you, I did some quick math.
Sorry.
And the quick math was today. If you look at the way inside the roads, okay, if you look at the way Town Square is laid out, there's a 5-unit and 6-unit that are parallel to that park. So I'm assuming 11 on one side and 11 on the other side. So 22 total units in total for sale, maintained by the association. And we're out of your life.
And the park area, safe or?
So let me be very clear. We built the park.
Yeah.
Okay, we changed it. The city wanted some renovations done. We did it. We landscaped it. We dedicated it to the city.
Yeah.
The only thing I'd ask is, and the mayor and I have discussed it, is it has to be maintained. Because I'm getting a lot of pushback from these guys who are going to put a $5 million investment into the commercial. I mean, and listen, please, I am not calling, but I went out there tonight. There's weeds that'll hit you in the chest right now. Please, no offense, but the entry looks great. I stay on these guys when I'm in town, and I don't even know that. But the management company does a lot of business for me, and they'll lose it. It just doesn't look good. I'm asking that we do those same type of commitments and just keep that park, green it up.
I've got a few questions unless anybody else has any questions.
Appreciate it.
I'm sorry, you finished?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I've got a question.
Sure.
I know that a lot of the delays were because of the moratorium that Jackson County had on any kind of further growth, right? And
No, that's not true. Not at Town Square. Town Square was approved. There was no moratorium impacting Town Square.
but I thought that we had a moratorium on growth in terms of doing anything with the water for a while?
No, that was on new developments, meaning developments that were coming in for the approval, they wouldn't accept plans. But Town Square started 3 years ago, so you know what I'm saying? So they did put a moratorium on accepting water and sewer plans, and that held us up on the other townhome site, but had no impact on Town Square, because it was developed.
All right. And then Jackson County is still, what, the fourth fastest growing county in the entire country. So Jackson County's booming. And obviously the development around here is booming. And in terms of the number of units that are still coming in, residential is still booming, so much so that we wanted to make sure that we control that. And then in terms of commercial, this is a great opportunity to bring in commercial development. We're in discussions right now, open discussions, so I can talk about it, with a top-tier wedding facility that's going to come in, and it's just going to be an amazing beautification project.
Sure.
So I see a lot of opportunity and potential for that space. So in terms of you speaking with different developers, I mean, if each one only wants to take on 20,000, then would you be willing to speak to them to each take on 20,000? And that way you could go ahead and get that taken care of.
So can I just?
Yeah, please. Yeah, it's a conversation.
So, okay, a couple of things, okay? That's great that the city has new businesses coming. What's happening is the number of rooftops, okay? When I came in 2021, we're talking 7,000 rooftops. The city at the time, I mean, I think in 2023, you guys were 1,800, 1,805. Without those other, and that was, ours were already in the hopper. So without those other 7,000 rooftops, when you look at Duluth, Swanee, they're 18, 20,000 residents, right? So my point is, I don't think, it's almost like saying, you know, we're going to open up 2 ice cream shops right next to each other and see who serves the best ice cream. I don't think you'll get 2 commercial developers that are going to compete at the same 20,000 square feet when the amount of rooftops only warrant 20,000 square feet. Now, let me be very clear, Bob. That is not my expertise, but I have become an expert in the last 6 weeks on this. Well, last 3 years. There is a formula, and Mike, like you know some commercial development. There is a formula that matches rooftops to square footage, and I am telling you we are way shy. And without the additional rooftops coming, in the time frame that I thought they would have come, you know, I don't think it's manageable. But what I'm asking, hear my request again. If we can work out a deal, I will commit those 2 paths on the front, on Glen Avenue, where everybody wants to be, okay, to commercial, okay? We will deed restrict those. Cannot be anything but. From the day we sign that, for 12 months, I will actively market the back of that to see if we can find another developer to do it. If it's not there, at that point in time, you know, now we're at 2026, and, you know, my daughter's going to be out of college, and it's time to, you know, move on here and fade off into the sunset. I don't want to be here for the next. Not that I don't love the city. Love what we've done. Charming city. Would live here personally. But I don't want to be here for another 10 years waiting.
I've got some questions. I'd like to ask a question
Yeah.
before we go to the public,
Sure.
please. Thank you. Was the Point Grand Apartments and townhomes at Glen Abbey tied to the town square? So was this like a package deal? If you did the apartments and the townhomes, you would complete the town square all together as one package?
No. Let me tell you what the commitment was. There's a resolution, and I think I sent it to.
I've got it, and that's why I'm asking. And I'm gonna have a couple of follow-up questions behind that.
And let me tell you our interpretations. The proposal came together at the wishes of the leadership that we attempt to provide commercial. There was no date certain, and I'd encourage you read the ordinance. There was no date certain by which it had to be built, because our concern has always been, and still is, the number of rooftops. if the city did this and we were able to get there, we could do this. But that was the way the resolution was written. And we went along with it. So, to answer your question,
Yep.
it was approved with the overall plan.
Yep.
We executed on the apartments. We executed on, the townhomes. But what I'm telling you is, the miss here is the execution on the commercial.
How do y'all line that up? Because it seems like things are getting built, and that's great and everything for the developer, but at what point does a citizen say, well, what's in it for me? I mean, we asked for this, the council previously voted on it, they were thinking they were going to get something, it turned out to be something else. Now we're at the point where we're asking for 15 to 20,000 square feet of commercial, when the resolution says 100,000 minimum, 40, well, let me finish. 100,000 square feet minimum, 44,000 of retail, commercial, and whatever else. Office,
Yep.
restaurant.
It does.
So it just seems like we have all this stuff building up for the developers, but what are the citizens kind of getting out of this? I mean, is this what they're going to get? 2 commercial pads and then more townhomes behind it? Or is there?
That's the proposal right now.
Proposal?
That's the proposal. And the city got a part. Whether you use it or not, I don't know if it's being utilized, right?
I guess as a developer, where do you stack it up and say, okay, well, why don't we start with the park first and then do the townhomes and then do the apartments? I mean, is there a certain way you guys do things as developers? You build the residential first and you come in?
No. So back to my original comment. Commercial is supported by the rooftops. As Richard had alluded to, it only took 20 years to get their commercial to work because they needed the rooftops, the people and the patrons to come spend the money to support the commercial.
Yeah.
That's what it needs.
Okay.
And that's what we had bought in on, that's what this city was going to, become.
Yeah.
Was going to move. And I'd encourage you, when you look at that resolution, and I've read it, I was a party to it, they called for up to, I believe, 400 apartments, and I believe 150 townhomes. So we haven't maximized, because it was an agreement that gave us some flexibility to move. Now, the 340 apartments are etched in stone. They're not changing.
I've got a couple, I hate to
Yeah,
cut you off, I got a couple more questions,
Please.
and then I'll get out of your way here. Did you guys submit a plan for the park to be approved?
I'm confused.
Well, let me read to you the resolution here. Developers shall submit for review and approval the proposed plan for the urban park, which shall include, among others, outdoor amphitheater, sidewalks, trees, shrubbery, irrigation system, dog waste, stations, seating, and tables. So did you guys
Yes,
submit?
yes.
Where do I find that information?
I would ask you, whoever the administrator is at that time,
Well, would you guys have a copy of it?
yeah, perhaps, I'm sure.
Would you be able to
Yeah,
provide it?
we wouldn't have been able to get the permit if it wasn't approved.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that's happening in the city that, you know, I can't ever get a document. I mean, I've asked for so many things over the years and it just can't get it, and then you end up looking like you're the one doing the wrong thing.
Yeah,
You know,
listen, I'll be more happy as I shared the resolution that.
can you email it to the council and to the mayor?
Sure.
Oh,
Hold on, let me.
Yeah, if you want to write this down, 'cause I got just a couple more things, and I promise you I'll get out of your way. I just need, if you're asking us to make a decision, we're deciding this on part of the citizens of Pendergrass. We're all homeowners here. We all have a piece of the pie, so we want to make sure that, at least we're doing our due diligence on this. Is there a signed contract other than this resolution for this development?
I'm not sure I understand. We have signed contracts with builders, we have signed contracts.
Is there a signed contract with the city for this development? The park, the apartments and the townhomes?
I don't think I've never heard of such signed contract. We went through an approval process, and we have an ordinance resolution.
Gotcha. So the only thing we have is a resolution. That's what the signatures are at, which I've seen.
Right.
Okay. Sorry for the dumb question.
No,
I'm
please.
learning just like you.
No, please. No problem.
So you say that the rooftops are not there. If you were to finish out the commercial at 44,000 square feet, there's not enough rooftops. And you're going by the rooftops of the whole city of Pendergrass?
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. So I go shopping all the time to Mall of Georgia, Brazelton, Jefferson. I get pizza down here in Jefferson. So are you saying that people from other cities are not interested in coming into Pendergrass to eat or to get a haircut or to hang out? I mean, is it just, are we like blocking ourselves off from the rest of the world? I'm just trying to get an idea of where, when you build commercial, you're only looking at the current rooftops that are here. There's no other people, you know what I mean? Is that
I do. So I'm not a commercial expert,
okay?
but the intent here was a more localized commercial.
Gotcha.
You're talking about regional destinations, malls, Topgolf. Places where cities come to gather.
Yep.
This was going to be a restaurant, a local bar. Are people coming from all over to eat at this restaurant right now? You can answer that. I can't.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So, yeah, I can't answer that.
Okay. And then, last question here. Can you tell me the difference between Tedon Development, Inc. and STKR Investments, LLC? And the reason why I asked, now you're probably going to say, well, what the hell is that got to do anything? Who were we in contract with this thing for? Was it Tedon? Because if you go to your website, it shows Tedon. But then when I look at the resolution, it shows STK LLC. So who's the agreement with?
Sticker is an affiliate of Tedon Development.
Okay.
Okay, that's all it is.
Gotcha.
It's a separate LLC, and it's an affiliate. So the president of Sticker is the same president of Tedon.
Good.
And you're looking at it. Same guy, affiliate.
Good deal. Good deal.
Okay.
Thank you.
No.
I didn't mean to get you too hard.
No, listen.
I need those answers.
Let me be very clear. This is a request, right? It's a simple, help me, and I want to help you. That's all this is. This is not a threat. This is not, we have tried for 3.5 years. I've got a lot of money tied up in that place. Nobody's losing more than I am. Meaning, Sticker, Tedon, at this moment in time, because the asset's sitting land. I'd be thrilled if a guy came in tomorrow and said, Rob, I'm going to build 40,000 square feet for you, 44,000 square feet tomorrow. I'm like, it's yours. I have offered to subordinate. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term. I have offered to partner. Things that I just don't want to do because that is not, my expertise, and I have not gotten any, bites on this thing. So all I'm asking is, help me for an exit traffic.
Can you share why?
Why?
Why haven't they been?
Yes, I can, because I've talked to a number of them. It's the amount of people. It's the amount of patrons. To build 44,000 square feet of commercial, and the vision was, I think at the time, it was a genuine vision. And it was a good one. I'll be the first guy to tell you. But we missed, okay? There's not enough rooftops to support that amount of commercial. There's not enough daily activity coming into getting their haircut, getting their nails done, eating at the restaurant, getting an ice cream, maybe a pizza. That's what it was. It was never intended to be a clothing store. But if it came, we would have welcomed it, right? There's just not enough. And this is what I'm being told. They believe, when I use they, I'm using it broadly, there's enough to support 20,000, 18,000 square feet, roughly. That's what I'm being told. I would have to bring those buildings. I would have to show you the building. We would get them, approved. That's what they're telling me they want.
So would you be able to go back and let them know that we are in the talks with a high-end wedding venue that's going to bring outside families and attractions and whatnot to where it could possibly help with that footprint?
Sure, and I think that would solidify the 15, 18,000 to 20,000 square feet. That is what I have shared with them. There are more developed, I mean, there's 70 more units, that we're bringing, to the market. So we have told them, and over the years, I'd like to think that the city is still going to support them. Listen, good development, okay? Don't go backwards from here. But good projects that make sense. And I'm going to tell you something right now. The preserve on Mountain Creek is performing extremely well at a very difficult time right now with the housing industry. I develop all over the southeast United States. But that project, I met with them the other day, Meritage, and they're doing well. So there's a demand. There's a need, right? So I guess at the end of the day, I think that would just help support, solidify the 20,000. And if the wedding venue does come, and it is successful, and I get a 12-month lag on the other one, then we'll go right to it. But if we don't, at that moment in time, I'd like to be able to build it out and move on. And, listen, I have nothing but great things with the city. All the people have always been professional. The patrons, the council, everyone I've dealt with has been extremely professional. So, it's not like I'm happy to leave, but, all good things sometimes come to an end. And the property I have sitting down at the end of the block here, the G assemblage, I have people waiting for me to make decisions. But if another 500 units is going to give people heartburn with the grocery store, then I don't want to keep them waiting, and we lose a tremendous amount of money walking away from it at this point in time. We have a lot of money. And that was the vision of the old administration, build it, build it, build it. And we were running down that road to do that and to deliver that because of the demands of SK Battery, right? Kubota, the rooftops. They had me meet with SK. I'm not kidding you. In 2021, when we first came here, the selling point to Teton Development was SK needed, hundreds and hundreds of homes. We got to fill this demand. We're gonna, and it was for a developer. Maybe not residents who kept, but so that's what we.
To be fair, I think some of that has slowed down as well.
Listen,
No, I'm not.
Let
I
me
know.
be very clear. I am not disappointed, and if that is the mindset of this city, it's fine. All I'm asking for is a little cooperation here.
Anything? Anybody else? Please, Council. Okay, can I open it up to the public then?
Come to the podium.
Come on, the voting, please.
Here you go.
Name, address.
You want me to sit or stand here to answer? Sure.
But, I'm listening and I'm hearing a lot, and we talk about not knowing a lot about commercial or not knowing a lot about this. And one of the premises that you keep coming back to is that everybody wanted number of housetops in order to create commercial. Commercial looks at number of housetops, but it's also disposable income. It's also the amount of money that's able to be spent in a geographical area for those housetops. And so the value, with the prices of the houses going up, the prices of the taxes going up, the prices of everything else going up, what does that eat away? Disposable income. So when you turn around and look at how many square feet can be supported by the people within Pendergrass, that becomes a diminishing return, which is what you're seeing, without question. And, we all make business decisions. You make business decisions.
Sure, every day.
This council makes business decisions. We have to live with them.
Sure.
And so at this point, it's an out for you, but what's the out for the city? Because at the point of the city is there's frankly a lack of infrastructure over there as far as parking is concerned, as far as sidewalks are concerned. I'm not bashing it.
I'm sorry, over where?
Down
Okay.
the right or wrong the vision that was presented to the city residents of Pendergrass is different than what's been done. We know about why part of that was, so I'm not,
I'm sorry, yeah, see, what vision other than the commercial being built?
there was, if we go back to the original side, the commercial side was going to be on the highway side. Is what we were also.
Sorry? No, never with anything we've ever presented.
Yeah, and you have a draw.
I still do.
Show it now. Certainly looks a lot different than this.
Do you have that drawing? Okay.
So, my point wasn't to come up and argue about
No,
it.
sure.
It's just, from a commercial standpoint, it's going to require disposable income and rooftops. And it's going to require it within a generalized area that doesn't impede upon Jefferson or any of the other places. So it makes it very difficult to support a commercial development there or anywhere in Pendergrass as far as that is.
Okay.
But that doesn't preclude the fact that if it's not there today, just like we've talked about, it's going to take 20 years to get there. Why should we sacrifice that space today? Why should the city sacrifice the zoning of that space today as commercial moved over to residential when in reality 20 years from now there's going to be a need for commercial space over and above the 20,000.
Can I address
Yeah,
that?
please.
Sure. So, couple things. And again, not a commercial expert, but I have encouraged the city to do a charrette, to bring in a planner and hire a planning group to create a vision for the city moving forward. For 4 years now, I have encouraged that. To show where you're going to use as your commercial district along Glen Abbey and not try and force it. There's a lot of property still within the city. Not to build apartments down a residential traveled area next to a lot of residential single-family homes. Not to force commercial where people don't want to be. So I've learned some valuable lessons in the last 4 years, and I hope the city has too. And I'm going to encourage this council to do that charrette, to figure out what you want as your industrial, where you want your commercial pod to be, and where you're going to allow residential. And then when a developer like me comes in, you're going to say, this is residential, this is your industrial, and this is commercial. This is what we'll allow. We'll have a matrix. We'll understand what's going to be 1 unit per acre, what will give 5 units or 10 units. The last time the code was 2005. The code is a 2005 code. It's 20 years ago. So what I'm saying is, I've encouraged, update it. You know what I'm saying? I really have. And I think that would be a much clearer vision, because I do think it's an attractive place to be. Great city. Great opportunities. But, take charge on that and then create that charrette and create that vision. You have a very talented individual now that just joined your staff. And I think that's one thing that should be tasked here. And if and when someday there's an opportunity, we'd love to come back and maybe fill some of that need. But when there's a clear vision. When there's a clear vision. But back to address that final comment, as you touched on, there's not a demand for commercial. And I don't know if there will be in 20 years, because it'll all be who's in this council and the council after that, pro-development, anti-development, but you've got a lot of towns around here that are all fighting for the same commercial and desirability in their cities. And my last comment that I'm going to say is revenue, time value of money. If we go out there and build it now, I can tell you that townhomes are going to sell. We know it's a proven commodity. We'll get the commercial built, and you're generating revenues off of that for the city. If it sits vacant for the next 20 years, it just lost revenue, and it's just lost, and it's going to be an eyesore maintenance, and it just looks failed.
Anyone else? Good.
I see the rapid growth of the residential, the single-family homes that are right here, that are right by Legacy Knoll, that are around Heroes. I see rapid growth in many different directions. Right now, Pendergrass is in a desert, and I know that it is ready to boom. My first response is after this presentation, I want to hear what Rich has to say and have that conversation. Not now, because I mean, I don't want to.
Of course, this was just a request.
Right.
Listen, I would
But
encourage you to speak.
in terms of a need, everything you just said, whether it's Great Clips, a dentist, Jersey Mike's, a Kroger, Publix, you know, obviously there's a need for a grocery store around here. There's a need for that local gathering spot of, you know, I mean, they've got it at Jefferson, Break, Kroger, Aldi, Publix. That is a fantastic, great intersection. So if you could put all that in that space, that would be perfect to draw everybody from this region, north and south.
It can't fit.
Right, it can't fit there, but something like it could. And that would be perfect in terms of what we could bring there. And I don't see any reason why it can't be there based on the number of rooftops in this general region. Not just Pendergrass, but the surrounding region, because Houston is overbuilt in terms of residential, and they need more space. They need places to go. With Chateau Lawn, with this new wedding venue, there's going to be a fantastic need for people to be able to walk and enjoy the evening and enjoy this sort of thing. And I see that happening here in Pendergrass in a safe, welcoming environment. So I see the vision there, and I still see that. And so my question is going to be for Rich after this is over.
Sure.
The best way to make that happen for everybody, where it will benefit the citizens of Pendergrass.
And I don't disagree with the word you just said, with the exception of the amount of square footage.
Right.
That's it.
Okay.
I don't disagree with the word except the amount. That is what I'm. And within the resolution, we have up to 150 townhomes. There was 100 built. There are 50 on the table. We had up to 400 apartments. There was 340. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to apartments, okay? But that, you know, so anyway, with that said, we're running into something. I surely don't want to push. My request is, please consider lessening the square footage. Sit down, let's have discussions, and let's make what we do build successful. Not that it's vacant.
Right.
And you have businesses going out. Yes, ma'am.
One final
Sure.
question. On the, let's just say the 18 to 20K, how quickly do you think you could get that to come to fruition, if that were?
When I get the go-ahead and the approval, depending, you know, on when that time is, I'm going to start those conversations immediately. I believe, it's just, I have two groups that if I stay involved, subordinate the lots, so take all the risk, essentially, they would bring it forward. But, you know, that, assuming we don't have 145% tariffs tomorrow,
Yeah.
assuming construction costs stay in control, assuming the economy doesn't go into recession. So I can't sit here and promise you, much like I told the administration, I can't promise you the 44,000. We'll try, but, you know.
Well, why wasn't that done before? Why didn't we just start off with 20,000 to do the first pad to see how it went?
Because it would have failed miserably.
My understanding, and I've only been on council for years, my understanding that there was pre-contracts for gym and a few other places that were ready to sign on if it was built, but it was never built.
Yeah, so let me cut this speculation because the buck stops here, okay? We have talked to a fitness center. They have an interest, but that's 6,000 square feet. I still have 14,000 square feet more that has to go. I've talked to a nail salon. Now, I know nothing about nail salons. I've developed a lot of, okay? I've talked to a haircuttery place. I've talked to 2 restaurants. But even when you start to fill those gaps, you know, we're hitting 10, 12, 14,000 square feet. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm sitting here telling you is it is going to be a push to fill those 2 pads sitting out there. And I think those pads are, what, about 18,000 square feet?
Total is about
Right, but we had talked about maybe putting some observation decks up there, you know what I'm saying, where if it was a restaurant, so, you know, we could get close. That's why I'm saying 15 to 20, we'll get close to that. But we'll fill those, but that's not an easy task. I just want to be clear.
So I have a question.
Sure, please.
So I grew up in Duluth. I was born and raised here. I grew up in a Rexall grill. I don't know if you know what that is, but yeah, I a little bit kid. The way that they developed Duluth until I left and I went to Flowery Branch and came here, they had several townhouses on the downtown square that were, I believe they're still there too, right there by the amphitheater.
Yeah, I've been there.
On the right-hand side.
Uh-huh.
They actually have, and I believe they did it in Swanee as well, they had commercial mixed in with the residential, where
Sure,
you can have the restaurant on the bottom and then the residential on the top. Is that an option at some point, that way that we could potentially get some more commercial space as well as fill your need for residential?
That's
That's the hypothetical.
listen, and I agree.
I've
That's a great question.
Yeah, the only reason I'm asking is, like I said, when I lived in Duluth, there was not much. Early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's grown and it's boomed and it looks nice. It's great, but I'm trying to find a middle ground for everybody.
I believe our resolution allows that, because we have additional apartments available. We have additional townhomes available. We build a commercial. In my experience, and I'm not the vertical construction guy, but the guys I've been talking to, they tell me one or the other works very well. It's very rare that both come together at the same time. So either the commercial takes off and nobody wants to live above a restaurant because it's too noisy, right?
Yeah.
Or the residential comes and then the restaurant doesn't want to be there because they're complaining. That, and I don't know, maybe you could speak more to that, but those are some of the areas. So, and where I'm developing a lot now, they're separating the two.
I see that in downtown Gainesville, or not downtown, but right around the roads, like the housing areas that's kind of empty, but the commercial space.
And every downtown develops differently.
Sure.
There's different ways it happens. Flowery Branch, I think, Mr. Jones, you were following me around because I worked in Duluth and then I was the ag director of Flowery Branch. But Flowery Branch has that. That was a public-private partnership.
Yeah, I live right there by Fishtails.
Okay, yeah, so you were right in the thick of it. But without reviewing this, I won't say much, but I will say that I think going forward, we referenced the resolution and ordinance, and I think going forward, we've got to make sure that we're doing this all legally, that this is all written down, that this is all gone through the public hearing process, all the advertising. And I think that, we're asking, it is an ask here tonight, but I think that's just a consideration. And I think it needs to be nailed down. Maybe there's several options you can look at, but it's got to come through the process. I mean, this can't be done as, hey, Rob, we love it, let's go ahead. This has got to be done legally. It's got to be advertised, it's got to be a public hearing, you got to open this all back up again and look at everything. You got to review your comprehensive plan.
So we inherited somebody else's problem.
What's that, sir?
We inherited somebody else's problem.
Yeah, this was done several years ago.
What opportunity?
Yeah.
I don't want to say problem, but
I will say when we did do it, there were public hearings. It did.
Sure, and that's great, and that's wonderful to hear, and I see that you have it. I just advise you, let's not go down a road too far tonight. Let's regroup, let's get this, let's let Rob submit something, maybe a couple options, let's have these discussions before we go to a public hearing. So let's get something that, either everyone's in agreement on, or the majority are, or the majority are not interested in going forward, and we can deal with that when that time comes. But I just caution you to make sure it's done legally and everything's, all your T's are dotted and I's are crossed.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
And I'm happy to talk to any of you individually about it.
Thank you so much. Any more questions or So,
I just wanna,
sure.
I'm just a single mom here
Yep.
that lives in.
We like to-
Name and address.
My name is Melissa, and I live on Rose Lane in Walnut Grove. I'm just, like I said, a single mom. I rescue
First and
dogs.
last name,
Melissa Atkinson, sorry.
and your address.
Rose Lane, 55 Rose Lane. But, Laura lives in my neighborhood, and we were at an HOA meeting several years ago. Well, not several, we've been here 3 years. And we were promised totally different things. I think that was the most attended HOA meeting we've ever had, because we were told to talk about commercial. I have a daughter. We were told, like pizza places, ice cream, coffee shops, that we could ride golf carts there. We'll have sidewalks where teenagers could walk there with their friends, have coffee, come home. That was all said to us and was
What HOA meeting was that?
Walnut Grove. The old administration came out and spoke to us.
So I can't.
I'm just letting you know what we were all told as a mom.
Sure. I wasn't there.
So, no.
I just want to be clear.
But it's,
I wouldn't know.
no.
I don't know what, I don't know.
I know, I'm just saying, as a mom, it's just kind of frustrating out here, we may not get any of it. And personally, we drive 30 minutes to go to like an ice cream parlor in Buford because there's nothing around here. There's nothing. I'll drive 30 minutes for a good pizza because I don't want Marco's, I don't want Papa. I don't want, you know what I mean? I don't drive that way. So I think to put it on that anybody that doesn't live in Pendergrass isn't going to come here is just wrong. If you drive it now, because there's nowhere around here to go. So as a simple mom, that's all I wanted to say is we were promised something totally different, made more like a family, like the kids could, as a 12-year-old grown, if she could walk there with her friends and have whatever, it just, that's how it was sold to us. I get it's nobody that was here and crap happens, I guess. But to think that people won't come in here, I for sure will drive 30 minutes for a good pizza or, and then you get to know it, people start coming in and Pendergrass is the place to go. But,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And just to summarize.
Can I just add one thing? When you hear these square footages too, what's 44,000 square feet? I mean, do you really know what that means? Do you know what that looks like?
This building is 5,000.
So what's it gonna look like? I think that's important too, What the document says 44 to 100. But, maybe we need to see what that actually looks like too. I think that would be.
Well, let me tell you how it was derived. If you look at there's 6 pads out there, and each pad consists of somewhere between 6,000 to 8,000 square feet. So the vision at the time was to build 6 different buildings that vary from 6,000 square feet to 8,000 square feet. That was the way it was derived. Listen, thank you for your time. Just to recap, came here in 2020, we raised the bar, okay? We relied on growth, rooftops, more. If that is not the desire, and we're not going to achieve the 4,000 to 7,000 rooftops, I have matrices where I'll send them out, no problem. But then don't hold us to a standard that we're relying upon for 44,000 square feet of commercial. Work with us. We'll bring it, and maybe you get an ice cream shop and a really good pizza place, and there's room for all of that. But I think we can hopefully meet the needs of what, everybody intended. I was not a part of that meeting. No, I don't know what was promised or how it was pitched, but I do know what we committed to. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anything else? The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Harlan, did you want to say something?
No, it's just that development over there was meant to be entertainment and retail mainly. All the citizens in Pendergrass was tickled to death that it was coming. Teams there and said it was coming. Here's a picture of what they claimed it was going to look like.
And at that time, it